With the highest number of sales in February since 2022, Cochrane is showing signs of actually having a spring market, which was non-existent last year. We're going to dive into the market details here in this video and tell you everything you need to know to prepare for this spring market as we enter into March of 2026. Diving into it, in February, Cochrane had 91 sales. This is up 22% over last February, and despite the stronger sales numbers, Cochrane's inventory still did grow ever so slightly. And despite having 154 new listings, Cochrane's month's supply actually dropped from the 5 months of supply that we've seen in December and January back down to 3 months of supply. Now, what that really means is that we have eased off that edge of a buyer's market and have moved into a really firm, balanced market here in Cochrane, Alberta. And that is a really big shift as we look into the spring months and leading into the summer of this calendar year. Now, that slight rise of inventory was only by about 15 units, so it really did not have a massive effect on how much inventory is currently on the market here in Cochrane. And we're going to dive into the new construction versus prior lived-in home details a little bit later in the video, so make sure you stick around to understand what's changed here in Cochrane over the last month. All right, let's talk about the benchmark prices. I know it's everybody's big question is, what's my home worth? What am I gonna have to pay for a home? So let's dive into that a little bit here. Despite the higher sales numbers, Cochrane couldn't quite shake the slowdown that happened in the third and fourth quarters of 2025. Obviously, it was a really slow winter. We saw that benchmark price start to slide. Cochrane's benchmark price is down about 3% year over year. It fared slightly better than Airdrie and Calgary, where Airdrie was down about 5%, Calgary was down about 4%, so again, slightly better. However, we did see a minor growth of about 1% over January's benchmark price, so we are seeing signs of a little bit more of a price increase month to month than we have seen for the previous 4 or 5 months. And where things really changed for Cochrane was in the detached benchmark price. Now, Cochrane, much like Airdrie, saw a big slowdown in sales numbers in December and January, and then with that, the benchmark price was dropping. So both of those are sitting at about 5% lower than they were last year in terms of benchmark price. Calgary fared slightly better at only about 3% down, but again, if you look at that benchmark price for Calgary, it is almost $100,000 more than Cochrane. So while we saw a slight dip here, I tell buyers this all the time, Cochrane will get you more for your dollar than you will in Calgary. So while it dropped a little bit here, the percentage probably works out to about the same dollar amount. All right, and as always, with Cochrane being one of the fastest growing towns in Alberta, I really think it's important to talk about new construction versus prior lived-in homes and what that actually looks like when it comes to the inventory. Now, for the tail end of 2025, we really saw about 50% of new listings or 50% of available listings on the market being new construction, and we have seen a slight pullback from that. Currently, Cochrane is sitting with about 44% of its listings being new construction. And so when we break it down into property types, detached homes are driving some of that drop in new construction listings because detached homes currently make up just over half of the available listings in Cochrane, and only 43% of those are new construction. So if you're shopping for prior lived-in detached homes, 43% of them are new construction, which means you have just over half of the homes on the market that might be available to you if you're not interested in new construction. And then townhouses, while there's not as many listings here in Cochrane, only 31% of them are new construction. And I was just having this conversation with a builder here in town on the weekend, and it really comes down to the fact that because Cochrane's been growing so much and the cost to develop land is increasing, the lot prices are just so expensive that builders are starting to move away from townhouses because they just can't make any money on them. And so they're moving into building more duplexes and more smaller detached homes where there's a little bit more of a market for them. And there's your precursor to move into duplexes. Now, duplexes in Cochrane have consistently been the highest percentage of new construction homes to prior lived-in listings, and this month is no different. Currently, 73% of duplex listings on the market are new construction. And so if you are looking for prior lived-in duplexes, you're really looking at a very small number of available listings here in Cochrane, Alberta. At the end of the day, I really think that it's important as a buyer and as a seller to educate yourself in Cochrane, Alberta's real estate market so you are prepared for your next home purchase or home sale. I hope you found this video helpful. I really like passing on this information and explaining what's going on in Cochrane, Alberta's real estate market. If you have other questions or want to know more, I have plenty of videos on this channel highlighting all of Cochrane's best communities, talking about what it's like to live here, and giving you all the details and honest feedback about moving and living in Cochrane, Alberta. If you like the video, I would really appreciate it. Hit that like button, hit subscribe. And if you want to know more about Cochrane, Alberta's real estate market, have questions about what it's like moving here and how all of this data affects you and your personal situation, my contact information is on the screen right now and it's in the description of the video below. So get a hold of me there. I'd love to chat with you. I'd love to meet you. And until next time, I will catch you in the next video.